gotta you gotta unmute your mic. Get ready to rock and roll. Are you ready, Crystal?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Here we are. It's the end stage. It's the end stage. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you all for joining.
Thanks. We do have some people in the chat already. Awesome. We're here to talk a little bit about the bird flu and everything else around it. Dr. Crystal Heath, what have you? What really caught your eye this week about what's going on out there?
Well, let's first talk about this deadly new strain of H7N9.
Yeah,
There have
that
been
scares me.
lots of people concerned about this over the years and about this particular strain, and because it has been. Oh, what's happening? Oh,
You're in.
it's been. I know, but I was sharing my screen and then it didn't share, I guess.
It's
Do
sharing
you still
now.
see it?
It is
I don't
thinking
see
about it.
it on my.
No, I don't think. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
You got it.
I
U.S.
wonder why it's
report,
so slow.
possibly because of recording the. If we're doing local recording, sometimes it slows things down. But yeah, but here we are. Yeah, the H7N9 freaks me out. What scares you about it? You have to unmute your mic. Can't unmute the guest. Their mic isn't connected. Well, okay. What freaks me about H7N9, it makes me afraid because I am worried about the mortality rate, which is much higher than H5N1. It makes me worried. Hey, Jackie Boyle, how you doing? Ben G, welcome to the club, guys. Welcome to the show.
Can you hear me now?
Jackie, yes, I can.
Okay.
So
I was saying
N9.
I am not that freaked out about it because we don't know how deadly this is in humans yet. Somebody did assuage my concerns and said this is a different genotype than the H7N9 in China. But there's still a lot we don't know. But I am concerned this is a new strain that can reassort with H5N1. So that's dangerous. My thing's being very slow right now. Are you having trouble hearing me or anything?
No, everything's good. Everything's going a little bit slower. Yeah.
Everything's going a little slower.
Oh no, everything's a little slow because of this setting that we have on this. For some reason, we're also recording locally, which means that we're uploading at the same time. I don't understand why that is either, but we'll fix it for the next time. We'll just have to struggle through on this one.
But yeah, I'm kind of curious where this came from in the first place. And there is this risk that it will reassort with the H5N1, which would be very bad. So yeah, but don't worry. We're now allocating another $1 billion to tackle the spread of the virus.
Another $1 billion, which we've got that's chump change these days because we can it's easy to get. But why is the H7N9 we've heard about this one before because in 2017 there was a huge outbreak of it, right? And it killed a bunch of people.
But yeah, 2014, 2017 in poultry birds. And this is the fodder for a lot of conspiracy theories because there was a lot of gain of function research around H7N9. And some people believe that COVID is just a cover up for the H7N9 lab leak that led to, and so they created COVID to cover up that lab leak. I find a lot of holes in that theory, but that's out there. And now we will see if this new outbreak will strengthen the conspiracy theorists or will it, I don't know. I don't know how the conspiracy will be spun with this new outbreak.
I don't know.
What
I
do you
don't know.
think?
The conspiracy theorists always bother me, but I never know what to think because I don't know how much of it matters. I feel like the conspiracy theorists are always telling me stuff that doesn't matter, like it came from a lab, and it doesn't matter to me if it came from a lab or came from the production facilities of these animals. Because if we weren't messing with animals, we wouldn't have this problem. But also, what difference does it make to me where it came from? I'm trying to survive this, and if I could convince people to stop harming animals, I feel like we could actually make it through here. Like, Crystal, like even if it came out from a lab, it still is raging through these chicken production facilities. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
what matter if it came from a lab through gain of function research?
it still threatens our food security as long as we're dependent on animal-based protein. So, what's the best way to enhance our food security is to support animal-free methods of protein production.
Bingo. That's
Um,
exactly where I'm at. Like, even if it came from a lab, which I'm against practicing weird stuff on animals, totally against that. But even if it did, and even if I wasn't against that, it still is tearing down all of our food security because once it gets into these tightly confined areas where we're keeping all these animals, it's where it really wreaks havoc on our entire, it's because we say food system, right? But it's more than that, isn't it? Like it tears apart everything because eventually it gets into us and we have to shut down governments because of it and all this. It's not. I don't
Yeah,
want to.
and it's a method of control too that can be wielded upon the citizens because
Yes.
we it's a way to make us fearful. People are so upset about the cost of eggs, not and that's the least of our concerns.
Mm-hmm.
If you're upset about the cost of eggs, stop buying eggs. You're just buying another yacht for the billionaire oligarchs
Right.
and for the executives of Cal-Maine Foods, whose stock price increased over 10% in one day. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Their stock price increased over 10%.
Moving on up. Like, meanwhile, we're the ones funding it. I couldn't believe, like,
We
it's
gave
just.
them $44 million in bailouts. Don't you think we should get a cut of that 10% stock price jump?
I think that
Don't
we should, seeing as
I
how we're the investors. This is where I don't think it's okay that the stockholders are the only ones who get that money. We're the ones paying for it. Our tax dollars went to it. It really bothers me. But that's back to the conspiracy theory. You don't need to build conspiracy theories when when the truth is already readily available and it's bad. Like the accepted narrative is very bad. You don't have to invent new
yeah.
conspiracy theories to make it worse because it's already
I
very, very bad.
I think so. Can you pull up that article that about RFK in the New York Times? I'm
Yes, I
worried if I
can.
do, my screen's gonna slow down again because I'm on my old laptop
Oh,
that's
maybe that's
streaming
what it
this.
is.
I
Okay, so
think,
here we
yeah.
go. RFK Jr., there he is. Kennedy's alarming prescription for poultry farms. This one caught my eye as well. The health secretary suggested just allowing the virus to spread so as to identify birds that may be immune.
Yeah, which is funny because and Gail Hansen, a veterinarian, points out a lot of these birds are very genetically similar. So it's not like there's a
Right. She
whole lot
says
of
that.
genetic diversity in these flocks that we can rely on for this. So,
Yeah, she
and
says that they're all basically the same bird genetically speaking.
yeah, and this is concerning too with this new H7N9 strain. Like now we're just really creating the perfect environment for reassortment to happen with H7N9 and H5N1.
When you say reassortment, that means basically that's like that's like the love child of two viruses. Is that what reassortment is? Somebody gets two viruses and they end up having baby viruses?
Well, yeah. Okay. So imagine you have a cell that's infected with H5N1 and H7N9.
Mhm.
Though, so each influenza virus is made up of 8 strands of RNA, and they can swap, and you can end up with some strands from one virus, some strands from another, which could create a virus that is like even more virulent potentially, which what we're mainly worried about is with the human virus having like the seasonal flu resort with H5N1
Right.
in one human worker, for instance. That
Yeah.
means that the seasonal flu virus is highly adapted to spread from human to human. So if that were to resort with H5N1, then that virus could potentially transmit more easily from human to human too. And
Mm.
our current vaccines would not really be able to deal with that. So,
I I don't get like okay, so they also said this thing about in this article about how if you just allow all these birds to get it, that increases the viral load. So if these workers are around just all of these birds, so like right now, if one of their birds gets the virus, the the worker reports it and the producer then eliminates them, stamps them out. And okay, we're not okay with a lot of what happens there because of ventilation shutdown and just
yeah, there's less cruel methods to do it, and they're not doing that either.
yeah, and
So,
it's hideous because they're killing millions at a time. It's a disgusting thing. But it's also a fact of this horrible industry and you know fragile food system that they've created. Okay.
not that you have a bias and an agenda, Sky.
No, well, I mean, everyone's very clear. My bias is anti-tyranny, so I think that
Mhm.
I'll be totally okay with admitting that. But okay, but right now, that's if they find one bird like that, they eliminate them. Now they're saying let the virus go, and the veterinarians are saying, well, if we do that, they're all going to get it because they're genetically similar. There's none of them have more immunity than the others, so they'll all get it. And because of that, the load is so heavy, the workers are definitely going to get it because they're going to
Well,
be they're going to be around it so much. Um,
well,
I
no,
don't
I think their hope is to enhance biosecurity. I don't know exactly what that means.
Yeah,
What
Brooke Rollins
more?
was saying that in front of the White House too. Brooke Rollins, the secretary, the ag sec, was saying that the ag sec was saying that we just need to stop killing birds because that's Biden's thing.
Mhm.
Biden wanted to stamp them out. It's all Biden's fault that the egg prices are so high.
Biden also gave $1 billion to help deal with this. Why don't we don't do all of the things that Biden did? Let's not keep bailing out this industry with another $1 billion.
Yes, thank
How
you,
about
Jackie,
that?
for contributing to the stream. I appreciate you, Jackie. Okay, so yeah, why give $1 billion to these? Why do everything that Biden did, but they don't want to kill the birds anymore. They want to, according to Brooke Rollins, she said she wanted to inoculate all the birds. She wanted to vaccinate them. But now
But
Trump,
no, she said that's off the table.
now in this New York Times article, but last week she was saying she wanted to vaccinate all of them. And now she's saying she doesn't want to do it because RFK is saying that he doesn't want to do that. It just let viruses are our friends. Like this should
Yeah.
scare everybody. We
Well,
have a
if you're not playing the Sky drinking game, every time Sky says we should be scared,
it
then you
should
should
at
drink.
least give you pause. Are you not afraid of getting a bird flu? You're not
I,
worried about this?
it is what it is. There's no point in getting afraid because fear is paralyzing. We have to get active.
Well, fear can be
Just
also
like
a
when, okay,
catalyst.
here's what we learn in surgery. When stuff happens in surgery and you like suddenly there's a gusher of blood, what do? You have every right to be afraid for the
Yes.
life of your patient, but is that
Yes.
going to do you any good? No. So,
Maybe it could heighten your senses.
mm,
It could bring you down to bad. Okay, so I wear a pin on my suit that says "Don't panic" because in and that to me is
the
something.
brain doesn't hear the don't part if you if you follow like affirmations and such.
Don't
So
panic.
it all your brain reads is panic. So
It's
I would advise against that pin.
No, I like it because it's from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Oh, okay.
which anything can happen. You can be but just don't panic. Keep your wits about you. Allow fear to be the thing that steals your
Courage,
nerves.
then
Yes.
rather.
Yeah, fear could be the thing that makes you concentrate and you kick in those survival instincts, and my spidey senses are tingling, Crystal. I am worried about H7N9 because supposedly it's way more deadly, although you're saying maybe not.
Well, I mean, I it's not the Chinese strain that caused death in 30-40% of hospitalized human patients. So there's that.
It's not quite the same as the one that killed 40%, but it's got the same name.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean,
they
there's
called
lots
it.
of crystals throughout history who've committed all sorts of atrocities, but I am not that crystal.
I get that. I get that. And when they started calling booby traps IEDs, it made everyone feel better for a while until they realized that IEDs were still blowing people's legs off. And then they were like, "Oh no, IEDs are still very scary, but we don't call them booby traps anymore." Um I don't know. But that's not the worst of it. Is that everyone else seems to be asleep at the wheel. All these people who say that they care about pandemics and don't want to go back, they're still buying eggs. They're still
Well,
voting for
people
bird
have
flu.
their habits, and eggs are still cheaper than just egg in a lot of cases. And I don't think we've really seen any companies out there promoting an alternative to eggs for breakfast. I mean, I am resisting the oligarchs by having a fruit smoothie every morning
Mm.
with some animal-free protein and some peanut butter. And if you want to resist the patriarchy and the oligarchs, maybe have a smoothie for breakfast.
I wish we could just
I
say the
think
hierarchy, because I feel like patriarchy is just another word for hierarchy at the end of the
mm,
day.
resist white
It's
supremacy, resist the patriarchy, resist the oligarchs,
I like
all of
all of
it.
these things. So someone asked me on my morning stream if people who are buying eggs are supporting pandemics.
No, I mean, it's they love to make it a consumer choice issue. They want to
Mm.
say people want to take away your right to buy eggs. They're trying to guilt you into not buying eggs. So, but they know that whether or not you buy eggs, you're going to have to be forced to pay for eggs. Cow Main
Mm.
Foods is still getting $44 million in bailout. Scamperly Farms is still getting however many millions of dollars in bailout. So whether or not you buy eggs, their interests are still going to be protected. And they want to keep it a consumer choice issue,
Well,
and that they want to keep it this us versus
yeah.
them. If you're not one of those people who can resist buying eggs, then the animal advocates won't accept you for their cause. And we got to resist this mentality to make it a consumer choice issue and realize, like, hey, we should all be asking
Mm.
businesses to, like, replace eggs on their menus with animal-free ingredients, and we should encourage these corporations to support animal-free food production and animal-free ingredients, and replace these animal products and their baked goods. Don't make it a consumer choice issue, because that's what they want.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
stop telling people to go vegan, and
I'm not
let's
telling
all
people to go vegan, but let me stop because I'm not telling
bring
people to go
everybody
vegan.
together.
Although I would love it if everyone did go vegan. I'm not telling people to go vegan because I feel like it's a hollow bell that we've been
Mhm.
ringing, and it doesn't really speak to what I believe is the problem, which are the things that you just enumerated, like hierarchy, white supremacy, colonialism, animal cruelty, animal exploitation, slavery. These things that I'm against, I think everyone in their heart, uh, I think everyone is against, but they don't necessarily see it or hear it when you say go vegan. I don't think anyone hears that
Yeah,
message
no.
when you say it, right?
I
So
hear cult wanting to restrict your dietary choices.
what they hear might be as varied and multifarious as so many other any other symbol. When people see the American flag, you might see it differently
Mhm.
than me, might see it differently than somebody else. Any of these symbols, the cross is a great one.
Yeah.
You see, some people see this, some people see that, and so go vegan just has become another kind of symbol that is too easily misinterpreted by different viewers, so it becomes useless. But that's not even what I want to ask you about. What I want to ask you about is a hypothetical, because it's not too far fetched when people do change their habits. And I know we're not trying to make it a consumer choice issue, but consumer choices have changed over the years. I mean, we haven't been eating eggs as a culture like
Mm-mm.
this until like 1948, 1950s. This is when it all kind of kicked
It's
up.
funny, when Biden was born, eggs
Yes.
and chicken weren't a thing
Mhm.
that
And
people, like,
Trump too.
regularly ate.
Trump
Yeah,
was born in 46. So that means
exactly.
that the chicken of tomorrow hadn't been born yet, which we call the Franken chicken today. Um, chickens weren't giving eggs. Giving, I say, it's so horrible. Chickens weren't laying eggs once a day back when Trump was born. So all these changes have happened within one dude's lifetime. All right. So imagine if consumer choice, let's say not consumer choice, consumer sentiment did change and we had a massive resistance to eggs. Just pretend, because people, I don't know, were afraid of
Like,
bird
the
flu.
whole Tesla thing is inspiring, how much
Yeah.
Tesla's stock prices dropped. If we
Mhm.
could do the same thing to Cal-Maine Foods, that might be something, but instead
Yeah.
Cal-Maine Foods stock prices increased. It's so funny. Like, you guys,
Mhm.
you're slamming Tesla. Meanwhile, Cal-Maine, like, the main thing that you're concerned about is
Who's Cal-Maine's
profiting.
CEO? What's his name again? The CEO of
Oh,
Cal-Maine? Do you remember his
I
name?
should know. I've
There
had
you
him at
go. I
it's
don't even remember
just
his
a
name.
generic white
And there you
dude,
go.
you know?
Generic white
Um,
dude is not a South African oligarch owned by Vladimir Putin.
yeah.
If Cal-Maine's CEO was a South African oligarch owned by Vladimir Putin who was acting as the handler for Donald Trump, then maybe we would be burning down Cal-Maine factories. But instead, it's this guy. I mean, he kind of raised his
Sherman
hand.
Miller.
Sherman
Sherman
Miller,
Miller.
good old
Remember thy
Shermy,
name.
Shermy,
Sherman
Shermy.
Miller.
Sherman Miller. So if Mr. Miller was, let's say we found out that Mr. Miller was just an unspeakable racist, and people might stop buying Cal-Maine eggs. This type of thing does happen.
Well, the thing about these guys, they're just like Cargill. You don't know whether you're buying Cal-Maine eggs or not. You
Hmm.
can't. If you're buying any baked goods that has eggs in it, you're probably buying Cal-Maine eggs. But it doesn't say Cal-Maine on the package anywhere.
Yeah.
And
All
so you
right.
can't boycott them.
Okay. Let's get, if something really did horrible happen where people woke up and they realized that these eggs and the way they're being produced are causing and bringing about this pandemic. And I think that might happen if something like 40% mortality was happening and you knew people who were dying of this bloody death, um people might stop eating eggs. And if that happened, do you think the government's still going to subsidize them? I don't think so. I don't think that we would still, if people really stopped, if we saw a 90% reduction in the consumption of eggs, I don't think the government would continue to subsidize a product that is not being consumed. It's not like
Yeah, I don't
milk
know.
where it's kind of iffy and they can force it on us and all this.
Mhm.
Because milk is in the
Uh,
schools. But if milk, we found out that milk was doing something and people stopped it.
well, eggs aren't doing anything. Eggs are just a byproduct of this industry.
Well, it's not a
Eh,
byproduct, it is the product.
yeah.
What's the byproduct? The
It's
byproduct
it is
is
the
bird flu.
product of this
Yeah,
industry. It's not like, so I don't know. I think the problem is people view eggs as just so necessary,
it's the
and let's
toothbrush, right?
dismantle that idea a little bit, that it's so necessary and must be subsidized. Like the fact that people are going on major podcasts and calling for the Democrats to promise $1 eggs
Yeah.
shows like people clearly don't get the issue. And
No.
there's just a lot of myths going on out there. One person on my Blue Sky the other day said, like, "Oh, I was under the impression that this bird flu outbreak only happened in egg layers," and it's like,
Mhm.
no, this H7N9
Yeah, I
outbreak
saw
happened in a
that.
broiler facility. So, and I think people see these little headlines of like, oh, 47,000 birds killed here or there. They don't,
Mhm.
let's pull up if you want to pull up the APHIS uh,
Yeah.
spreadsheet, and we can look at the current outbreaks right now. I saw that there was a big 400,000 flock outbreak in Iowa. It's so funny how we
Mhm.
talk about some of these outbreaks, but not all of them. Um,
Where is it? There it is.
yeah, scroll down this table here. See what's our count up to? How
69
many?
confirmed floods in the last 30 days.
What's the total? 170 million though? I can pull it up on my other
I have
screen.
4.29 million birds affected in the last 30 days.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
total
166.89 million. And
160
we,
167 million birds have been
yeah.
killed for this. Mhm.
And just March 17th, Buena Vista, Iowa, 400,000 commercial table egg pullets. So here were the replacements were just killed.
Yeah, the pullets are the ones that
400,000.
haven't ever laid an egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pullets are like adolescent
Yeah.
birds. So it's weird to me too that all of this, nothing in California? Am I
Well,
tripping?
you
What
know
is that
why?
all about?
Have
Because
you
we killed
driven
them all
around
there.
California lately?
Yeah.
There's all of the poultry facilities are empty. Except for I wonder if I don't know, maybe somebody from Sonoma can report. Like, where are all the Sonoma peeps? Why aren't we hearing any updates about the Sonoma facilities? And are
Mm,
they repopulating their facilities that were hit last year? How long did it take them to repopulate if they have? Or are they still
mhm.
empty now?
Nature's vitamin, though. Oh my god, that's what people will see. No matter what we do, I know we don't wanna frame it as a consumer choice, it ends up being a consumer choice thing. Like, we have to give people something, like, what can they do, Crystal?
What can you
What's
do? You can ask companies to replace eggs in their products with animal-free ingredients. So that's one way to like make it not a consumer choice issue. Approach the businesses and the corporations
Mhm.
and encourage them to make the change so that it's easier. Like imagine just any baked good you buy, you know that it doesn't have eggs in it. Like, how
Mm,
great would that be? How, that would be make it a lot easier. I think a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go vegetarian," because it's like, okay, I can avoid meat, but I can't avoid all of the other products with like
yeah.
all the little, milk powder and eggs and everything in it. So, there's that. It just makes it easier for people to
Yeah, you don't have
avoid
to
those
read
products.
labels because reading
Yeah.
labels is such a burden to read a label. I
Well,
mean,
people don't even read anything these
people
days.
yeah,
So,
I know, it's frightening. I mean, it's what's weird too, you mentioned, the podcast thing, Andrew Schultz being the guy saying that
mhm.
the comedian saying that, well, they could just subsidize it, Democrats should just get up and say, "We want $1 eggs, and that we'll promise you $1 eggs." And it's like, that is not what we need to do. No one who's governing needs to be promising this BS. And this is where Donald Trump has gotten in trouble. He's promising things he hasn't kept one of his promises. And yet,
Yeah.
except maybe,
Is
illegally
this
deporting a bunch of people, but not the same. Off topic. But this is something that like if we just
Are we just living in an era of, like, empty promises? Is that what I don't think we should do what they're doing.
no.
Co I don't think we should lie. I don't think we should be dishonest. I think we should be very open and encourage questioning.
Yes, critical thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I also there's also something that I find truly annoying that I think people are slowly waking up to, and it's this shell game of taking tax dollars and giving them to corporations so that you can have a dollar egg. Like that is something, and that's what eggs. Well, it's not even dollar per egg; it's a dollar dozen egg, right? That dollar a dozen. Taking my tax dollars and giving it to rich oligarchs in order so that I could buy or you could buy or one could buy. A dozen eggs for $1 is a shell game that we need to stop. And that's, I think, people are
Yeah, taking
starting to
away
see it.
consumer choice, taking away the choice of support, which businesses we
Yes.
support with our money. I think that's wrong. Like, imagine if Trump decided to subsidize Teslas, how upset people would be.
Well, and they are subsidized. They are
Yeah, they
subsidized. It
are,
was a
and
$50
it's
billion
true.
loan or something from the government, and a bunch of grants and a bunch of other things that were
Mhm.
subsidized by the government. So, yeah, I think people are starting to wake up to that, because the other thing is, like, with the shutdowns of USDA, which, they fired them, then they brought them back to address exactly what we're talking about, the bird flu. But, like, we voted for people to create departments like the USDA, and now they're being shut down willy-nilly, and that money that we paid, you and I paid for that, where's it going? And if it's just gonna go to oligarchs so I can buy $1, or people who eat eggs can buy $1 dozen eggs, that's a shell game. That's to me, like, gross embezzlement.
Yeah. Let's pull up the Farm Forward
Yeah,
report. Farm Forward just did this report, Are We Subsidizing the Next Pandemic? And it dives
thank you.
into a lot of our data on the subsidies.
Yeah,
And
the Farm
you can
Forward
pull up the
article.
poll report there too if you click on the link.
Read the full
It's
report.
a PDF.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know if it'll.
PDFs are
Okay.
always PDFs are one of the greatest things ever invented, and they're also one of the slowest things
Yeah.
to go. Look how slow this is. All right, here we go. The full report. Look at this great photo.
Hmm.
Did these animals die of ventilation shutdown, and now
Who
there's one
knows?
that's still alive?
I don't know where that photo is from.
How is
This is the problem with
this
animal advocate photos
Oh,
is
that
you need.
it's from a little movie. You do know where it is. You do know where it's from.
Does it say? I can't read it
You
from
do know
there.
it's from. You know this. It's from
I
Yeah, it says it. It's from a little thing called Glass Walls.
I don't. For what
Hello, it's
year
from
was that made?
It's from Glass Walls. We Animals.
From
There's
what
no date. It
year?
says it's from Glass Walls and We
Does it say
Animals.
the company's name? I want to know the address
No,
where
it
that
doesn't
photo
say.
was taken. I want to know the date, or else
Maybe we
it's
can. I'll
just
go to We. Well, they have it on
we.
We
The problem
Animals.
with
You
the
use We
animals is
Animals.
they rarely put the company's name. Sometimes they
Oh,
do,
really?
but and they'll give like a generic location, but they won't put the name of the company usually because they don't want to get sued, which I get it.
I mean, this is pretty hardcore image. I mean,
Mhm. Does
damn.
it say what's going on here? Like
How government payments to big poultry threaten public health.
we
It's
need some
clearly a
more.
depopulation situation here.
Clearly, I'm not assuming anything. Could be just animal rights activists piling up a bunch of dead birds for their photo op, as far as I'm concerned.
I
So,
don't know any animal advocates that do that, so I've never
oh,
heard of
you
animal advocates do
don't?
that.
I
Piling up dead
do.
birds for photos?
I
No.
do. I know
I don't
some animal rights activists who've done some very shady stuff like
Wow.
that. And it's not good. It's not good for a movement to lie. We need long, hour-long shots of stuff given the exact time, date, location. So it's just very clear, like these short clips where it's like, oh, did you just flip that bird over and then film it for 2 seconds? And then you're telling me this bird's laying on the, I don't know. So
I
this is why it's
guess,
so
but I mean,
important to have long shots.
we can't just trust everything. Videos and photos are still
We
powerful
got to
things.
scrutinize so that we do better. We got to do stuff that's going to stand up to journalistic scrutiny that it should withstand, and maybe even stand up in court. And so veterinarians can look at it and do like a proper evaluation of this footage.
Well,
So,
this is Farm Forward. They've done,
you know,
this is a PhD
it doesn't
writing
mean we
this.
can't criticize. I like
They do,
Farm Forward, but I'm
and they have lots of credits here, a lot of citation here going on. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
they've
for
done
the
their
most part,
research.
very factual.
Jenny O has 120 million. That's the top indemnity. Jenny O, $120 million they've gotten. I don't know when they do this, but they've gotten plenty of money. Herbrook Poultry Ranch, $89 million. Yeah. Hormel is the second largest turkey producer in the United States.
Well, Hormel is Jennie-O turkey store.
Okay. It is. Oh, owned by Hormel. Hormel owns, I see, okay.
Yeah.
And they supply Walmart and Albertsons. Jeez. So, I mean, the report's pretty interesting. I haven't read the entire thing, but vaccine requirements lag far behind other countries. This is something interesting because I keep hearing that if we vaccinate, that other countries won't buy American birds, but the U.S. government has refused to mandate the implementation of an industry vaccination program, despite the fact that vaccination has proven to be a highly effective way to prevent the spread of the virus in many countries around the world.
Well, there's lots of countries that still won't take vaccinated poultry birds, and it would make disease surveillance more difficult, especially if they weren't doing vaccinations that could differentiate between infected versus vaccinated birds. And how would we know?
I don't know.
It's crazy. Animal rights activists don't need to create photo ops because the abusers already do that.
Yeah. They do create a lot of photo ops for people.
Yeah, I've used a lot of photos just straight from the company's websites, where it's like, it's all in how you frame it. If you like take away the pleasant music and the narration off of some of the videos that they show, it's
I mean, right there on YouTube, I found tons of, I found tons. I used to go through them, velvet production, velvet pill production. And they show all these horrible things they're doing to farmed deer in America. It's really disgusting. All right. So
yeah, the UK vaccination of poultry and captive birds against avian influenza is generally prohibited, except in zoos, due concerns about incomplete protection and the potential for vaccinated birds to carry the virus asymptomatically. The European Union has imposed restrictions on live birds, hatching eggs, and certain poultry products from regions affected by avian influenza, reflecting caution regarding the disease spread.
So I mean, the fear is that if we vaccinate them, we won't be able to know if these birds actually have it asymptomatically. Also, if we vaccinate them, we might be creating, vaccine robust viruses, and you're not stopping the food products that you're deriving from these animals from getting the virus. When we had the epidemiologist, he was saying that no, it doesn't accomplish all your goals. It just keeps the animals live long enough to extract from them. But it doesn't accomplish any of the other goals, which is getting rid of the virus. It doesn't stamp it out. So it's a little ridiculous to me that we would, but it doesn't matter anymore anyway, because Brooke Rollins is saying that it's off the table because RFK Jr. hates vaccines, even though
is she citing him as the reason?
No, but in the New York Times article, it was said that RFK has said all this stuff about bird flu, but he has no power over the USDA. But the USDA is backing him up. There, she's saying that she wants to go with it. Look at this. Hold on. The RFK Jr. article. Brooke Rollins. I think it says it in the very beginning. Hold on a second. U.S. poultry let the virus rip. Instead of culling birds when the infection is discovered, farmers should consider maybe the possibility of letting it run through the flock. He has repeated the idea in other interviews. Mr. Kennedy does not have jurisdiction over farms, but Brooke Rollins, the agriculture, has also voiced support of the notion.
Yeah.
She's saying she's supporting his idea.
Yeah, I will assume that she's come to this conclusion herself and she's not being unduly influenced by RFK. But I've also heard that
you would assume that. Like
because she's an independent, strong, independent woman who can come to her own
Brooke
conclusions,
Rollins.
sir. But
Yeah. Okay.
I also have heard this from producers who, when I say, why are we bailing out these producers for the loss of their birds, tell me they're being forced to exterminate their flocks because of this avian influenza, because the government
Mhm.
is telling them to. And so I ask, so are you saying you would rather not exterminate your flock? Are you saying you would sell these infected birds to slaughter? Like, are is that what you want to do? They never like really follow up, but they're just basically like, yeah, we're owed this bailout money because the government is forcing us to exterminate these birds. So I think, RFK's maybe even like calling them on their bluff, like, okay, we we
I
won't force you to exterminate your birds anymore. Now what's going to happen? And we will
People will
see.
be
Like, it's a kind of a crazy experiment. I'm
it's a crazy experiment under which so many animals will suffer. People will die. People will die. It's a crazy experiment,
People
and
will die. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it does our movement any good to make assumptions about what is going to happen because of this. Because, RFK has long gone after factory farms, and this could be a way of like just pointing out how dangerous they are, how they do threaten our food security, in a way of ending it. Like, there's no getting out of this. We're gonna let it rip, and
you
it's
think he's
going
playing
to be
4D chess.
devastating.
Yeah, it would be
Who
devastating, and
knows?
people will die. Someone has already died of bird flu.
But
Letting
the
bird
person who
flu rip.
both people who died of bird flu had no connection to commercial poultry facilities. It seems like all of the people who have just kind of gotten minor illnesses have not been the ones actually working in commercial facilities. So that's
Backyard
interesting.
flocks. Yeah, I mean, we have backyard flocks, we have wild birds,
Yeah.
but letting her rip increases the chances of those things happening. Just if you let something rip on the largest flocks in America, that's just going to make it more prevalent. And I mean, it goes one way, it goes the other. Viruses don't care if they're leaving the largest flocks or they're falling off of geese. We're
Mhm.
going to see tons of wild birds die. I mean, this could mean the end of wild birds. I mean, it isn't that far fetched. I don't think I'm hurting the movement by saying that people have died and people will die more if we let it rip. And that's what he's suggesting. It's interesting to me too, because Brooke Rollins, I looked her up last week and I read about her. She's an attorney from Texas, and RFK Jr. is an attorney. It's just attorneys doing all this. Like she
Mhm.
is no, these are just attorneys.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about other U.S., but I don't,
Attorneys who, yeah, like RFK doesn't know what riboflavin is.
right.
Like, that was hilarious. Anyway,
This is something, yeah, doesn't know what riboflavin is, but he knows what. Isn't riboflavin just vitamin A? Is that just,
oh gosh, I think it's a B vitamin, but
is it a B?
now I'm
I
both.
thought it was vitamin A. But
I
yeah,
could
that
be
he
wrong.
cuz I think it
B2,
was
that's what it is.
it's B2. That's what it is. It's B2. Yeah, yeah. Um riboflavin is a type of vitamin. That's what it's funny to me that he didn't know. He's the head of the NIH, or he's
Mhm.
the head of he's the secretary of um, of health and human services. So he is in charge of the NIH. He doesn't know what riboflavin is. And Brooke Rollins is the secretary of agriculture now, but she was a general counsel and ethics advisor to Governor Rick Perry. Who has, let's just say, Rick Perry's kind of an interesting character, I think is a good way of putting it. People should look into Rick Perry, but we don't have time for that today. Uh, but you don't think it's good to warn people that this is
I think
dangerous?
we have to be careful of not saying things that are going to cause people to roll their eyes or be like, okay, you guys clearly are scared liberals, you have an agenda, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I think we should stick to facts instead of making assumptions. And because there's so many facts here that are interesting that, you know, I even know just me stating the facts will lead people to their own conclusions, which is a more persuasive way to make an argument rather than saying the words that we want people to think, stating the evidence, and then they end up
Okay, then I won't say
thinking
it.
the thing.
I'll just refer back to the New York Times saying
And
such an
we
experiment
obviously
would
know, like,
be
a lot of people
disastrous.
are very suspicious of the New York Times, and I think it's probably wrong of the New York Times to say have a headline that says alarming prescription. Like, let's just I would if I was in charge of making that headline, I would be like, Kennedy's plan for dealing with bird flu on farms is to just not.
Yeah, and that
Or just
every
like,
scientist seems to disagree. I mean, these are things that we need to wake people up about. I know, like, I know we can't. It's just like this thing. I remember when they told Biden that you're not supposed to call Trump, compare him to Hitler or something, and he says, "Well, when he does Hitler stuff, what am I supposed to say?" And I feel like, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. If scientists are think that his solution, which is doing nothing, is going to be disastrous and will result in human death as well
then
as
just quote the scientists. Like, I think as journalists, you have to just, if a scientist says that, quote them,
well, they
and
do.
quote the, and which they did. But I'd be careful about like making the headlines that like everybody thinks the New York Times already has an agenda anyway. But that's just my own thing.
Veterinarians with experience containing bird flu said letting the virus sweep through poultry flocks unchecked would be inhumane and
Yeah,
dangerous and have enormous economic consequences. I
yeah.
mean, this isn't journalistic poetic license here. This is that's what veterinarians are saying, that this is
Hmm.
going to be disastrous, that people will
Yeah.
die, that the economics of it are harrowing,
Hmm.
and that
It is.
and the animals are going to be treated in such a way that it's going to be unspeakable. I mean, it it's hard not to get your hair blown back a little bit by this, you know?
I
Mr.
just
Kennedy also
think we can't. I just think we lose credibility and trustworthiness when we make it so emotional all the time. But that's just me. That's why I just have a different
you
strategy.
could you're like, Fox Mulder, and I'm Fox Mulder and you're Scully, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're
That's the
Scully,
thing.
I'm Fox Mulder. So right here again, on Fox News, Mr. Kennedy also suggested that the virus doesn't appear to hurt wild birds. They have some kind of immunity. This is something that I believed for a second when I believed this lie for a
Hmm.
second until I talked to people who said I was full of shit. And I went, "What do you mean? I heard that on the news."
Man, lots of birds are dying everywhere.
Yes. They're like, "No, they're all dying. It's just that ducks and shorebirds don't show symptoms."
Yeah.
And but it
And they're
kills
spreading it.
raptors. They're spreading it, right. But they're but they're killing raptors, waterfowl, sandhill cranes, snow geese, and many other species.
Hmm.
And I heard from a vet that wild animals don't appear to be getting killed by this, but they aren't.
What vet
Wild
was
birds
that?
are getting devastated.
Oh, was this at VMX?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. I can't remember. I think it was at VMX. They were saying that, well, how come they don't get it? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. You're the vet.
Mm.
That they develop some kind of herd immunity, right? There's always the herd immunity. They get herd
Herd
immunity.
immunity.
Herd immunity. It's the buzzword. But this is the thing, like, if we're not gonna make these appeals and just be like, "Well, your facts versus my facts," their facts are always going to win because they're lies. The lies always travel faster than
I
truth.
know. What do you do about that?
You make emotional appeals and ring the alarm bell, I guess.
Mm.
Or at least I'll be Fox Mulder and you be Scully.
Yeah, no, I think you refute with your own facts and professionals.
In the marketplace of
Um,
ideas.
and yeah,
Yeah. I, I don't know. The
right. Shall
biology and
we?
immunology don't
We've
work that
got
way.
8 minutes left. We could go into this John Sanbon Matsu's
Yeah,
op-ed
I'd
in
love to.
Common Dreams.
Here it is. Common
Um,
dreams. Wild with bird flu, our factory farm chickens have come home to roost. This photo has a long one. Live poultry market in New York.
yeah, and that's where we'll be going
We're
April
going.
12th through 18th.
Yeah.
I'll be speaking at Long Island University and Cornell University. And then we'll also be touring the wet markets if anyone are open. And if anybody wants to come join us, please contact us and love to hang out with y'all.
Yeah, if you're in New York, please let us know. We're doing in real life events in New York City. The taking end stage on the road. We don't have to stop at 8 minutes, but let's talk about
Yeah.
this. No need to rush. We left 2
Yeah,
hours on this one if we have to.
I know.
I loved this because of the Albert Camus stuff. I mean,
Mm,
I remember reading The Plague probably 20 years ago and being moved by this. If people don't know, The Plague is when the bunch of rats um, start showing up on people's doors. Albert Camus is a famous philosopher, French philosopher who wrote his philosophy in narratives, and it's quite wonderful. The Plague is, I think, the thing that I've read the most of his. Maybe I think I read Sisyphus. It doesn't matter. The Plague. The rats show up and they're bleeding out of their mouths, and people are like, "Huh, whatever." They look at it, look at all these animals dying with indifference, but then of course they all start dying, and start. Then it's no longer they're no longer so indifferent. They're
mm,
now afflicted with the same thing that was killing all the rats, and I think that that's pretty great. When Dr. Rue, a physician, remarks upon the strange phenomenon with the rats to his mother, she replies vaguely, "It's just like that sometimes." It's just like that sometimes.
yeah.
And now this author has been thinking about that novel, which is great because the townspeople are us. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just like, oh, uh, I don't think people are aware of the scale of this and how bad it is. It's like, oh, yeah, I can't get eggs right now, or the eggs are really expensive. Like, people don't realize we're in this unprecedented episodic right now.
Yeah.
This isn't just something that just happens. This is like never before.
And it's killing millions of animals, from storks to snowy owls to cranes to harbor seals, from foxes and herons to finches and lions. Geese have fallen from the skies, dead over Kansas City. House cats have died from violent seizures in Iceland and Texas. The virus has decimated colonies of Adelie penguins in Antarctica, wiped out albatross fledglings on the remote South African island of Marion, killed dolphins and manatees off the Florida coast. I mean, this is something we were talking about on Sunday school a while ago, and I was saying, um, do you think that people in Pompeii started seeing birds fall out of the sky and dogs run away and the rats leave the city, and they were like, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe we should be worried." Um, this is they're like all the other animals in the world are canaries in the coal mine. I mean, we're lucky we haven't been seen a huge outbreak of this.
But I think everybody's just like, oh, somebody's going to take care of it for us, you know, and we just assume that it's being handled, and that the producers know best, the veterinarians know best. So we're just going to depend on them to like solve this for us and everybody's so busy with their families and their jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
even veterinarians, they are focused on their one job, their one thing. And few of us have the time, just the spare time carved out to deal with advocacy around this and making sure things move in the right directions.
Do you think that humans just haven't gotten it to the degree that other animals have because of our sanitary procedures, and we actually do have soap and all these things that wild animals don't and birds don't have. All these, is it that? I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe in some biosecurity and just how few people do interact with animals at these facilities, and maybe
mm.
we've gotten it very mildly. Who knows?
And so far we can't catch it from each other, but they can catch it from each other. But
Some species can. I mean, I can.
I
There's
wonder if
this.
I wonder. So some mammalian species can, right?
So
Like
let me. I'll just.
cows seem to give it to each other.
Yeah, me. I can. I attended this WHO. I'm gonna have to ask you to remove. Oh, got it. This
Yeah, I just want to.
WHO thing this
This.
morning webinar, and this slide came up. Um,
Hmm,
oops, let me see this slide. So this
sorry.
slide shows us. I don't know if we're slowing down. The ones that are boxed in red are the ones that can circulate and spread it. So like
Mm,
um, minks and cows and birds and looks like pinnipeds can. Those ones that are in blue boxes, those are dead end hosts and can't spread it. So,
I like the hourglass hanging over the human head, like the sword of Damocles. That's a powerful
yeah.
sign that, like, one of my favorite symbols is the one of Tempus Fugit with the the hourglass with bat wings to show you that death is always coming for you. I feel like that's what that reminds me of.
Mm,
That's a great image that someone put that over there. I love that someone put that on there. There's the
yeah.
hourglass over the human head. It's coming for you, Barbara.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there are a lot of interesting things with this. Of course, this particular talk was from, or this slide was from this talk about the critical research needs on animal models, making the case that we needed to do all of this animal model research. Although he
Mm.
did make the case that uh, we need alternative in vitro methods, organoid cultures, to allow improved pre-selection. So following 3R principles, but
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
we need more in vitro stuff going on so that we can.
yeah, we also need GOF, that's gain of function research, which I would argue maybe we don't. We're doing plenty of gain of function research in real life out there on these poultry facilities, at these dairies. So let's study that in real time,
Yeah, just
not
study actual gain of function.
do gain of function in the lab, please.
Yeah,
Um, let's not do more gain of function research.
indeed.
But yeah, this was a really interesting webinar. There was so much, it was hours long.
Ugh.
And I spent way too much time on it. Um, but I encourage you to sign up for the WHO updates and check it out
Now
for
that
yourself.
Americans aren't in the WHO, we're still allowed to go to their. Are we still
Yeah,
allowed to
so
do
take
it?
advantage.
Yeah, well, we still can before they
Yeah.
before they before they tell us we're not allowed. Before they say Americans can't look at WHO stuff.
Yeah, this is, I found it interesting, like how it's spread between different species. So in ferrets, there's moderate to fatal disease, no or inefficient aerosol transmission.
But do they say
Some,
why? Do they say why, Crystal? Why is it that ferrets can't, but we're not getting it from each other?
oh, I guess we need to do some more gain of function research in the lab to like determine that out. It's just different
Wait, is there
receptors that
no
they
is there no
have.
hypo? Oh,
Yeah, just different receptors that ferrets have versus us, and like the affinity that they have and the ability to um, replicate within that species cells. Like, do you want like the exact, like
no, I
they
mean,
have it down to the exact things that need to change within this virus to make it more likely to the permissivity, the ability to
mm,
replicate and enter our cells. All of these things are what makes the difference.
mm,
So even they have these humanized mice that they've created
Mm,
So I don't know exactly what this means. But in pigs are lowly susceptible right now, and not able to transmit it. Cows and calves, they have inefficient intranasal infection,
mm,
no nasal spread, they say. That's always been like a question. Can it be spread through respiratory secretions in cows? But it's highly efficient in the mammary gland. So they think that that's how it's spreading within the herds. It's just through the mammary glands.
mm.
It also is shed in urine too, which they don't mention here. In other primates, mild to severe disease, dose dependent. I saw that study, and it was grisly, like how sick those primates got in the charts in their supplementary documents.
So primates can give it
Rough.
to each other or no?
Dose dependent. It doesn't say here.
Mm.
Um, Vaccine testing is successful in mice, ferrets, and non-human primates.
I feel like if
So
non-human primates can start giving it to each other, we're about to have the shit hit the proverbial fan over
yeah,
here.
I guess we need to do more gain of function research to
I don't think
determine.
that's a good idea. I think we need to
Yeah.
stop farming animals. I think we need to stop confining them in tiny little. Wait, go back to that. Go back to that cool graphic I like. That one with all the people and the back
Mhm.
one more. Yeah, we're a primate. Where are non-human primates on this? I can't see which one's got a monkey picture. Oh, I see. He's got blue. There's a monkey right there. He's got
Mm.
blue. So he's not giving it to other monkeys.
Where's oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Apes. Yeah, so
Zoo
it's
animals, they call them, huh?
mhm.
Wild animals. Monkeys don't make the wild animal list. They just make the zoo animal list. Oh, geez, Louise.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the and this I found it so if you're interested in antivirals and how antivirals work, this is kind of like the virus entering the cell, binding to
Mm,
receptors. It uncoats, replicates within the host. And then these are the antivirals that work here where the host replicates the viral components. So your remdesivir, favipiravir, ribavirin, cidofovir, and all those guys. And then you have these ones that work on the part where it releases the virus from the host cell. So I thought that was
mm.
interesting where these different antivirals work. Oseltamivir, so that's Tamivir right there. That's
It's
where
funny,
that
when I was a
works.
kid, this isn't what virus how they drew viruses. They drew viruses like they look like little mosquitoes almost. I guess the coronavirus looks different than the one I
They're yeah, different viruses are different.
differently
Uh,
depicted, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that graphic too.
Yeah, it looks like a little
So,
like a little head with legs on it. Like a little octopus sort of, like a little squid.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
I guess that's all I got.
I wonder if the guy from the other one would ever come back. Like, would I wonder if he would ever come to the show? Maybe he'd come on. For years, epidemiologist, his name is John Sanbonmatsu.
Oh, yeah.
John Sanbonmatsu. We should try to get him on the
He's
show.
great. Yeah, he's a friend of mine. I
He
could
is?
definitely have him on. He'd be great for Sunday school or like the
Really?
ethical underground. Yeah, because
Ethical
he's more a
Underground.
philosopher and he has a book coming out
Really?
too. So
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah,
hopefully.
ask him to see if
Yeah.
he'd come on for to hang out with us. For years, epidemiologists have warned that the animal agriculture system was a time bomb waiting to go off. Most of the deadly diseases ever to have affected our own species, including cholera, smallpox, measles, tuberculosis, AIDS, and influenza, have been caused by our exploitation of animals for food.
He
Three
might be
quarters of
even be
all emerging
watching this
infections.
right now because I know he retweeted my tweet about this.
Oh, he
So
did? That'd be great if he did, and maybe he is. If he
so
is, he's probably watching it on Twitter.
yeah.
He can't comment.
Oh, comments on
Come over to
Twitter. Okay.
Facebook. Come over
Come
to
yeah.
Facebook or YouTube, and you could and we'll see your comments if you guys want to comment. If you're on Twitter right now, the best way is to come over on Facebook and YouTube and take part in the chat. Um, have been caused by our exploitation. Okay, yeah, a consequence chiefly of modern animal food system. I love the way he. When I was reading this, I was kind of taken by his ability to just casually introduce little lists Like most of the deadly diseases ever have to affect our species, including, and then all of these, three
Mhm.
quarters of all emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic in origin. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. And then, and he's clearly a person. He quotes John Donne. I really enjoyed this article.
Mhm.
Ask not for
Right up
whom the
your
bell
alley.
tolls, it tolls for thee. Yes, definitely. He doesn't dumb himself down for anybody. When the poet John Donne wrote these words centuries ago, it was customary for churches in England to toll their bells to announce the death of someone in the community. We are deeply connected with one another, Donne was saying, and what happens to one happens to all. This is something I
Mm.
think about all the time. I've been thinking about the for whom the bell tolls since, I don't know, junior high when I read that poem the first time. If a clod from England is stolen, if a clod is of earth is stolen, it is taken from all of England. Um, we're all in this together on spaceship
Yeah.
Earth. And no man is an island. What are we doing? And so I thought that was really great. Uh, I
Yeah.
definitely like to see when animals are freaking out. It makes me wonder what's going on. It makes perk my ears up. You know, I wouldn't mind them making emotional appeals to make me change my consumer habits.
Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe my Scully tactics aren't good enough.
No, good enough.
Aren't
I think it's like a yin and a yang situation.
Mhm.
Scully is often right, and Mulder's often right. That's what's
Mhm.
so great about the X-Files. Sometimes he's stupid. He just says stupid stuff, and it's not, you know. Sometimes he's ridiculous,
It's true.
but sometimes Scully just needs, to have more of an open mind for the other tactics. But anyway,
Yeah.
how absolutely arrogant of our species to think we can enslave and exploit innocent animals and we not reap our due rewards. Indeed. Kind of it sounds like karma, really, doesn't it? But I hope that it doesn't catch up to us for what it's worth.
Well, it
Hope we're
already has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, but maybe I don't
But
know.
still, it's the animals have suffered worse than we have for sure.
H5N wait, H7N9,
H7N9.
H7N9. If it's like that'd be a reckoning. That would be a reckoning for sure. That would not be like COVID. That would be like 40
Well, if it is able to transmit from human to human and has a high mortality
mortality rate.
rate, then it would be very bad. But it's also got to have the mortality rate that isn't so high like Ebola, where people like die instantly, because then it
Yeah,
won't spread. It's got
right.
to be like it's got to be able to spread enough. And sometimes, you don't even need a high mortality rate. Like even with like long COVID is pretty scary. And even if it just
True.
debilitates you, if it, I'm worried about the neurologic effects of influenza, because we do know influenza is linked to Parkinson's disease. So
Yeah.
people with bad influenza can have Parkinson's disease later in life. It
Yeah.
can, so that's not good.
No.
That's concerning. So if you can prevent yourself from getting influenza, do, because it could save you later on in life.
That's what I'm
So
telling
even
I'm
if
trying to
it's not deadly, it can.
still take you down. It could take you
Mhm.
down a notch for sure, put you in a bad way forever. This is people think that like I guess because we're so used to you catch a cold and you get better, or you catch the flu and you get better. I don't even know, if you get the flu and you're sick for a couple days and you're back on your feet, you're like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. That's what they were telling us about COVID. But
Mhm.
if the mortality is even close to like a 10% mortality would be a game changer for humanity. Like, and that ain't something that's too out of this world. I mean, COVID was like 1%, and it didn't even get to 1%. So,
I just asked what percentage of people are experiencing long COVID symptoms.
mm,
And a meta-analysis estimated that approximately 6 to 7% of adults globally have experienced long COVID. Um, Long COVID occurs in 10 to 30% of non-hospitalized individuals. Among those hospitalized due to COVID-19, 50 to 70% have reported long COVID symptoms.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if is there any age breakdown? Because I think both of the last presidents had I think both have long COVID. I think
Mm,
both of them do weird stuff when they breathe, and both of them are kind of cuckoo now. Like Joe Biden was okay. You could say like he was okay, and then he got COVID and he started downhill fast. And whatever people think about Trump, he did you see the last interview that he did with Ingram? He's talking about Canada like he's crazy. I'm like, he sounds like Biden to me, except mean Biden. He sounds like mean Biden. And it's just like,
mm,
I think both of them have long
yeah.
COVID. I wonder if old
Well,
people get it more.
individuals between 35 and 49 years old appear to have the highest prevalence of long COVID symptoms. Older adults, those aged 65 and older, report the lowest prevalence,
Oh.
which may be influenced by factors such as underreporting or misattribution of symptoms to, because Trump isn't going to report he's got long COVID symptoms. Like,
No, and they might not
no.
say he's just old. Same thing with
Yeah.
Biden. Like Biden went a little cuckoo in the end, and it might be that he was like, well, maybe he has long COVID, and we're all just like, oh, he's just old. You
Adults
know?
aged 35 to 49, 8.9% reported ever having long COVID. 4.7% reported current symptoms of age 35 to 49. Adults aged 50 to 64, 7.6% reported having long COVID, 3.8% reported current symptoms. Adults aged 18 to 34, 6.9% reported ever having long COVID, 2.7% reported current symptoms. And adults aged 65 and older, 4.1 reported ever having long COVID, and 2.3% reported current symptoms.
Mm.
Um, I wonder what percentage of people like are currently just not feeling great, like are currently afflicted by some malady right now.
How much of the general population is ill at any given time?
Yeah. I
Just
wonder if
of
ChatGPT
anything.
knows that.
How many people are suffering of disease at any given time? I don't know, but Fish Feel Pain in the chat says antivirals aren't working well either, as St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital has found 2 FDA-approved flu antivirals did not successfully treat severe H5N1 infections.
Approximately 1 in 3 adults worldwide suffers from multiple chronic conditions. 1 in 3.
Seems like too
Respiratory
many.
infections in 2019, there were an estimated 33 million cases of RSV-associated acute lower respiratory infections in children 0 to 60 months.
Mm.
Uh, uh,
I don't think any of those
um,
people are vegans. What do you think? Can't remember the last time I was sick with anything.
I don't know.
No, I don't wanna I hate pretending like
You
veganism is
know,
a,
my theory, I think a lot of vegans are not healthy. And that's not because the vegan diet is unhealthy. It's because I think we are far too sure that just avoiding animal products is enough and not acknowledging enough how difficult it is under the current systems, how we've been denied the ability to consume a diet that's in alignment with our values and gives us all the nutrients that we need. We've been denied that ability by corporate interests who want us to consume large amounts of animal products to maximize the profits of the grain companies and pharmaceutical companies. So
That's
I think,
anecdotal. That's just say I could say the
yeah,
same anecdote. Well, I've been vegan for 20 years this year. This year marks 20 years vegan, and I never get sick. And
yeah,
people remark on that. But then Karina's been vegan for 6 years. She gets sick but she works at a school.
yeah, because it's cool.
She works at a school with special kids, and they're it's difficult. They're sneezing and stuff, and it's difficult. But when she comes home, I quarantine. Like I try to stay
Hmm.
away so I don't get sick. But even when I do catch something, it's like a day. I'm like a
Yeah,
little under the weather for a day. I think that's because of I think it's because I've been vegan for 20 years. That's just my
yeah,
anecdote for that. I think
interesting.
I could be full of it, but I don't know. At the end of the
Yeah,
day, I'm worried about this long COVID. I'm glad I haven't gotten COVID. I'm worried that one day it'll just come and get me. It'll just bite me in the ass when I'm because that's how viruses get you, isn't it, Crystal?
Mhm.
They get you when you least expect it. You know, when you
Mhm.
right when your immune system, you're a little more stressed than you should be or whatever, right when you kind of lower your guard, you
Bunch
get
of
the
kids
virus.
enter your elevator and start coughing, and you're like
Totally.
you try to hold your breath for as long as you can, but then it's like, "Oh my god, ding." You gotta wait for a
Mhm.
bunch of people to come in the 6th floor, and you're like,
Ah.
yeah,
Do
I
you
had
do
that
that?
the other day.
I
Like,
try to breathe the other way. Do you try to breathe away from them?
just
Like
take, like, little tiny sips of air.
yeah, I do.
You're like
That's how I breathe. I go and then blow towards them. Try to blow try to blow the virus away. That's how I try to not get viruses. It's working.
it's working.
And then I don't
Oh
touch
god.
anything. You can't touch anything.
Yeah, I wash my hands, like, several times a day.
Do you
Yeah,
remember during the vid they had those little hooks that people were using to press elevator buttons and things? I need to get one of those and
yeah.
open doors so you don't have to.
Well, our actually, yeah, there is a button you have to push on the elevator 'cause that's I'm thinking, "Oh, our elevator's all through the app," but no, you do actually have to press the button once you're in there.
That's you gotta start
Yeah.
wearing rubber gloves.
Mhm.
Like every
Not
time
that
you
I'm
go
scared or
out,
anything, but I just
not
or just wash your hands, once the second you get in your door, and you're good.
I've been telling
But
everybody to wash their hands at the end of every time I go live. Every live stream, I say, all right, keep fighting and wash your hands because people don't wash their hands enough. They need to be washing their hands a lot more.
God, people are so
Um,
gross. Yeah,
they're
I
so gross. They don't
cannot believe
realize that,
people.
like, you know, um, okay, well, I worked in hospitality for a long time, as everybody knows, and it's you're around a lot of gross people doing a lot of gross stuff, and there's food. But you know what's really funny is that most people who get foodborne illnesses, they give it to themselves. It's not
Mhm.
because the meat was undercooked or whatever. Although that happens, and there's cross contamination and all that stuff, but we actually take any place worth opening with any kind of pride takes efforts to, undertakes measures to keep that from happening. But people don't. They go to the bathroom, they don't wash their hands, and then they eat a finger food,
Mm.
and they're like, they're putting poop in their mouth, and
Oh, God.
yes, and people like
Yeah.
people rub their eye and they get styes,
Mhm.
and it's not because somebody put poop in their face or conjunctivitis. It's because they wiped their butt and didn't wash their hands, or
Anyway, yeah, we just lost a listener. No.
no, we're higher than ever. That's
No.
going up. The numbers are going up. We got 69 viewers. 69, dude. Okay, all I'm saying
70, there
is
you go.
I'm telling everybody, please wash your hands. You don't realize that you could give yourself conjunctivitis very easily. You could blow your nose and don't wash your hands, and the bacteria that lives in your nose is not supposed to be in your eye or anywhere else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Wash your
Anyway,
hands.
sadly though, my computer battery is dying, so we do have to end this live stream
This was a
soon.
2-hour stream.
I know, but I don't know. I have to reconnect on my if you want to keep
All right.
going,
No,
I
it's an
just have
hour and
to
17 minutes. We're going to go live again in about 45 minutes, everybody,
okay.
for the next stream. Would you like to tell everybody what the next stream is?
The next stream is animal advocacy live stream. We're going to talk about banning fireworks. We're going to talk about the SAFE Act, which will ban horse slaughter in the United States and the horse slaughter pipeline, and the Paw
Declaw
Project's
ban? Yeah.
plan to declaw, to ban declawing in California, and what we can do for that. So that'll start at 4 o'clock or in 40 minutes from now. So join us
Mhm.
there. And yeah, I'm sorry. I got to change computers. I got to plug this in because I can't plug in my computer and have my microphone and my camera on too because there's only
It's
so
a
many outlets.
Apple problems.
It
But
is.
before is it going to
So
die right now? Can we ask one more question?
we'll see if I hang up on you. It's just because
Okay,
we're in
so
the
for
red.
everybody watching on Twitter or on Facebook or anywhere else, please subscribe to Our Honor and Skyjack Morgan on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. But Our
And
Honor
Crystal Heath
especially.
on
Oh, and
YouTube
Crystal Heath.
too.
Sorry, if I
Please.
always yeah, Crystal Heath. Please subscribe on YouTube to Crystal Heath, and Our Honor, and please let us know if you think it would be because I'm thinking we need to just make end stage one long stream, and we're just going to cover fireworks,
Yeah,
pandemic,
just
do an hour pandemic, hour of fireworks and Vets United, and then do FOIA stuff right in there as well. And it'll just be parts of the same podcast. It'll just be one long scheduled, okay, this is
would
the
that would be good for engagement because the longer we're on, the more
yeah, that's
viewers
what
we
I'm
get.
thinking.
Is that what you're thinking?
I was thinking about
Okay.
that. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, man, this should be because I'm programming this all. I'm like, what we're doing is programming a real podcast where we have like a clock and go through. Okay, well, and then people just know. Oh, in the beginning, we're going to talk about bird flu, and in the middle, we'll talk about fireworks, and then we'll talk about veterinarian stuff, particularly, although we always do, and then we'll do FOIA. A FOIA thing at the end to show people how to, you know what I mean? Just and the work,
Mhm.
and we could even mix in the writer's workshop if we wanted to. Although that might be
God,
that might
that's
be the
then
one
be
that.
6 hours of
Well, they don't have to be an
I don't
hour
know.
each. They could be a half hour each or so, or we'll
Yeah.
go
The
longer
writers
depending.
thing, though, really should take, like, 2 hours, like, because it takes a long time to
Yeah.
write something.
So,
Um,
and that's a good thing. We're doing FOIA Friday on Friday at 4, and we're doing Writers Workshop at 3. But we'll be back today in 40 minutes on all of the same outlets. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
yeah, thank you. I'll see y'all in a few minutes.
If you